all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it right. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it right. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way.
Greetings, and welcome to Context Matters. The date is February 5th, 2026. And let me tell you something. We are in Black History Month. If you're in Jamaica, we are in Reggae Month. Significant. Tomorrow is Bob Marley's birthday. On the 2nd was the Prince of Reggae, Dennis Brown. Both may their souls rest in peace. Also, we lost some legends in the music industry, Cat and Sly. So condolences to the family, and as we contemplate what the future of music looks like, or whether the culture can be preserved. One would have seen the outcome of the Grammys on Sunday, especially for the Reggae Grammy. Always congratulations to the winners, but the reality is everybody is a winner. Everybody that was nominated, if you know the amount of albums that goes up for nominations, then you'll have an appreciation that just to be recognized is enough. We can have a whole conversation about it is an academy. It means that being judged by your peers and your peers finding your music worthy of winning is a different conversation. It has nothing to do with the fans. It has to do with the contributors of music, members of the academy, and the technical, how they view what music is for them. But as I said, all winners. If you look at the African category, Tyler continues to dominate, and the fans of Davido and the fans of Burna Boy, how they feel about it. But they're all winners. We could have a conversation about Afro beats, how Afro music is to Jamaican music, and the conversation goes on. But as I said, congratulations to Kez Namdi. He has put in the work. The music is quality. And one of the things about the Grammy is that persons who you never know before is an opportunity to go look at the music that they're doing, and introduce yourself, especially if you're a music lover, and you'll be surprised to know when you look at what Bad Bunny has done, when you look at names who I don't even know yet, but songs that I like and never even knew them. They were honored, and they got an award for the music that they did. It's a very interesting thing, but again, the Grammy is about American culture and appreciating infusion and just how impactful different genres from all over the world find its way into the academy and who they recognize. So again, that's just my short comment on it. And for those who are interested in putting out music, the quality of the music, speaking about Sly and speaking about Cat, let me tell you something. Sly and Robbie, excellent producers. I spoke about Dennis Brown. They would have been producers behind some of the greatest compositions coming out of Jamaica. One particular one from Sly, Dennis Brown has a song, Sitting Here Watching. Really good song. Dennis Brown is an excellent singer. I had the opportunity to sample that beat in my song, That's Cool. And Sly, when he heard the song, he gave his blessings, and I was able to put that song out, and it did very well. It appeared and featured in American Gangster, Trap Queen, still getting good, my nice check from those things. So music definitely can change your life. There's two aspects about music. That's those who get to make a lot of money from the music, and then there's those who just the quality of the music and how impactful the music is also what people look for. But I can tell you, music can free your mind, can free your soul, it can cause you to escape depression. It is an outlet. I encourage persons to participate, not just as listeners, but whether you be writers, use it as a medium to express yourself, but respect the quality. Somebody said image as well. I don't know the context, and this is context matters, but respect the quality, respect the work that our forefathers would have put into the music. And music is not just about slackness and boogie yaga. Music, certainly reggae music, was always about social commentaries. And if you listen to Bob Marley, if you listen to Dennis Brown, if you listen to Garnet Silk, if you listen to and I have to say it, Big Youth, the Toastmaster, my father. One of the difficult things that always was a part of music creation is certainly coming from him. You couldn't put out no boogie yaga, nastiness and slackness, and getting his approval was one of the most difficult things in terms of when he listens to it. But he had this ritual where if I did a song, he would send it to Cat, he would send it to Sly, he would send it to the greats, and they would either like it or don't like it. And as a man where is iron balloon, never boss in the music, I can laugh about it because our talents are found in other places. You have great football and soccer players whose children become tennis players, swimmers, and athletes. We are offsprings of great men and women. To be a son or a daughter of Jamaica, your blessings is endless. Knowing your ancestral lineage and all of that is important, so you know where you fit in. And so every Jamaican is a star. As my father would have said in his song, not gonna say the N-word, but yeah, every Jamaican is a star. And congratulate everybody who put pen to paper, every young person who is an artist that has expressed themselves and escaped poverty through music. That's what it is about. So to see an entire category of Jamaican sons and daughters nominated and all their names called representing Jamaica, all of them is more, it's beyond amazing. And that is what we should be celebrating and having conversations about how to enhance the lives of young people who have the dream to be great. The dream, you get it? Get it. Anyway, so not going to dwell on that. I want to talk about debunking public perception, murder versus manslaughter. That's the topic for today. We have other things that we're going to talk about through it, but that's I'm starting there, and I think I want people to just have a good idea of why I'm talking about that today, because public current affairs is always a hot topic. The things that happen in Jamaica will always reach where it for reach and go where it for go. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but here's what I'm gonna say, especially for those of you who kind of participate in the court of public opinion. This conversation, and I'm going to give the disclaimer now, is educational purposes. It's historical. It gives an idea of what the mind frame of people across Jamaica is experiencing. I mean, something as simple as cold front a go on in a Jamaica. Cold front. And me no want the front me I talk about are the cold front where the breeze blow. And educators, persons who are responsible for your children when they go to school, are taking away their jackets, winter coat, break front jacket, things to break the cold. When it really cold, it's so cold that if you don't have water heater, you just not go bed, not even your foot you want to wash. And the educators are taking away the jackets and saying you're not permitted to wear these sweaters and these coats, and it's not a part of the school uniform, and they're sending children home. So much so that the ministry has to say, students, teachers, educators, you have to allow the children to come with the sweaters. That's a mind frame of the society that we live in. People are morally rigid and so slavish to be unable to use the human experience to make decisions outside of what the strictures or what the structure is. Similarly, just the thought that the Minister of Education has to put out a note to tell them that you must allow them. And don't get me wrong, there are principals, and kudos to them, I'm not singling out anybody, who are actually providing sweaters to make sure that the children were comfortable and understood what it was like. You live in a Caribbean island where the place always hot. They have to turn on AC and fan. And radam, the place get cold. People are trying to adapt like humans do, adapt to circumstances. And then you have persons who have the authority making great effort to prevent you from, if I'm going to say it right, from literally protecting yourself against the elements. So that alone is something to think about when dealing with the whole aspect of how persons feel when it comes to just how people deal with the realities of life. So I'm starting right there. So again, if you're joining me from Reggae Global Radio out of the United States, big up yourself. If you are joining me from Best FM 100 right here in Jamaica, and you're either driving home or you just listen to see what are going and what are going, and if anything else matter other than the context, the critical thinking mind. So you tune in, big up yourself. For those of you on TikTok, you know what to do. Tap up the screen, share the live, stick around if you're feeling the vibe. And for those of you who are YouTube, where you can see me, big up yourself. Shout out to my moderator, walking in divine purpose, always there to remind people, you know what to do. Hey, yeah. Just like the stream and all of that. And again, this conversation, like I said, it's a heavy conversation because we just came off of the bragging and boasting of how crime has gone down and lowest murder rate for January, all of these things that ought to be celebrated. But then the confusion comes in when in one place 4 people murdered, and then just the murders are happening. People murdering people in zones of special operations right there in Montego Bay, and just sit and just stop for a second and wonder, is this happening? Is this real? Is this something that I should be worried about? These are real serious life being cut short. People are, what we say, unaliving of people. And however, what is palatable? So the reality is that society generally, they deal with murder one way and they deal with manslaughter next way. And I mean, when you think about it, there's a cultural reality that people have to think about. So I'll just say entertainment, it actually reflects and the type of violence that is sealed into our consciousness. So it's a part of our collective, if not our individual realities. I just spoke about the Grammys, so you know that the cultural reality, a lot of our crime is a result of trying to get scarce resources. If you don't believe, right now people want zinc and people want Plea and people want things to get back to life, back to reality, and we are politicizing interventions and government assistance, which is really assistance from the world who found Melissa to be unfortunate and gave us contributions. So let's pick up the newspaper. I'm not gonna call them name. Pick up any one of the newspaper and you see people get stabbed up, people get shot, people get hurt, the unaliving, people head get chopped off, people disfigure, shoot, all of these things. So it is not just confined to economics, as violence in societies is going on in societies that are okay. Barbados, St. Vincent, Trinidad. I mean, I know Trinidad just get vicious to the point where the prime minister say, yo, if them come on your property, rat-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, and she feels good saying that. And in Jamaica, we have the extrajudicial killings, but we are seeing a transformation in terms of the killings are so senseless that there's no real, you can't put your finger on it, right? Whether it be vigilantism, whether it be over the music and people attach themselves to which artist is their favorite artist, and them want to turn diss tracks into picking up bodies, from friend killers to bad mind killers to people who believe that you shouldn't interfere with baby mothers and wives and you while then gonna work for defend the nation. Joe Grind come in and Joe Grind don't deserve to live, whatever you want to call it. These are all realities, right? So people feel like they have to arm themselves, and everybody's having a gun. More people than anywhere in the rest of the world have a piece of their protective reasoning. They say you have to have a tool, or if back in the day, a shoes. So people are obsessed about bringing down murder rates and what looks palatable to the world to say that we are safe, however they go about looking at it. So what would you say then is that you have to look at life from a criminology, that's what they call it, criminological standpoint. And out of that, criminologists have said, and if anybody had walked the halls of the University of the West Indies, whether Mona Law or Cave Hill or St. Augustine, you would have been blessed and honored to come across a Dr. Janelle Matthews. She would have introduced criminology as a part of the criminal law and speak about what a high crime society is. So Jamaica is actually a high crime society, and the government has gone above and beyond, including, if you want to say, sanctioning extrajudicial killings to ensure that the murder rate is down, whether it is a palatable answer and a real response to murder. So a high crime society is one where the sustained homicide rate is 20, right, or more incidents per 100,000 persons. So in the population for not less than 10 consecutive years, Jamaica continues to experience that. In fact, when I learned about that in 2012, that is about 13 years ago, and we still right now celebrating, because the Honorable Minister of National Security is celebrating that this has been January has been the lowest death rate in how many years since they've been recording it. So, well, a society where people must devise plans, to devise a plan, or find ways to live in their geographical areas and not navigate the violence. So that region can be defined as a high crime society, a subculture of violence, right? So when you think about, I don't need to make comparisons between Trinidad, St. Lucia, and all of that. So Jamaica has recorded its lowest amount of murders, under 700, last year. But when you think about what it looks like, and where we need to be, you understand the obsession. But crime is more than just murder. Again, when we think about the health sector, and you see the controversy that's happening in the health industry, on accounting of money, and the health persons at the university hospital is being accused of taking advantage of the system. One wonders, because people are dying more from hypertension, heart attack, the stroke, heart attack, and even diabetes. Non-communicable diseases are killing off people, and now road fatalities are now increasing in such a way that one wonders if, when we're thinking about saving the lives of the people of Jamaica, where we should put our interest or our focus. Well, law is created in a vacuum, and you'll see that the criminal law is rigid. So people, the court of public opinion is not marching along with what happens in the court. If you commit murder, is murder, no matter how you flip it and reverse it. And in fact, the Privy Council in Shermanton and the Queen says the death penalty is for the worst of the worst. And when people say, but what is the worst of the worst? They say, we will know it when we see it. So you people down there in Jamaica, you only won't know it. Make we think about it. And that's one of the reasons why the death penalty is suspended. Can't really have it in a Jamaica. There's a little bit, so many times people have the conversations about it, but it's not happening. So the police who are to protect us sometimes don't. Politicians who are there to look after our interests, they don't. So it will start to feel in relation to cases that we are just concerned with the doctrine, and we are concerned about everything that you hear them talk about in the news, and the 9-day wonder come up, and sometimes it's salacious and they talk about it, and you see the Donnelly case just come up, and the Joel and Silvera case, what's happening now, and everybody waited with a bated breath to see the outcome. And I'm sure everybody will be back again for the sentencing in March, because the Chief Justice of Jamaica has accepted a guilty plea for manslaughter, and the prosecutor, the learned DPP, Miss Claudette Thompson, has accepted a plea of manslaughter. What is going on? What is happening in the criminal courts? Well, for anybody who has ever studied law, especially if you are educated, studied at the University of the West Indies, the first thing you will learn is that manslaughter is sexier than murder. A manslaughterer is so palatable, because it have what people love in a Jamaica: excuse. If you're late, the first thing your boss says, what is your excuse? If you're there at school and you don't do your homework, your teacher, what is your excuse? Yeah? If you broke down the money and you don't respond, people say, what is your excuse? What do you say about that? What is your excuse? Well, manslaughter is the great excuse. And we'll talk about that a little more. But again, criminology is where we ought to be looking to have some semblance of understanding with having the capacity to understand and choose between good and evil. That's what criminal law say, you're an autonomous being and you have that. It also assumes that the law will protect us and those who we trust will protect us. And the good will eventually win out. And that vigilante justice is neither desirable nor necessary. That is what criminal law does. But criminology says another thing. We just must understand that public policy is what we have to look at. Again, when the law is working or the law is doing its job, people sometimes upset. A young lady was acid. She has about 40 something surgeries. She was displeased that the young man, who I guess he pled guilty, was given 12 years and felt that it should have been more for her disfigurement. And so a lot of times people don't feel like justice is served when sentences are handed down, or people feel like prosecutors shouldn't accept guilty pleas, and just how one wonders in terms of, for Jamaica to be a Christian society, how selectively unforgiving people are. But that's just the public not narrative, and it is on the basis that persons don't necessarily understand the law, appreciate the law, or is doing things. A lot of the comments and a lot of the decisions that people take is done with complete emotion. And also they are obsessed with position in society, lot in society. They're obsessed with even color of skin. They're obsessed with whether you are ancestor of a slave. They're obsessed with whether it's uptown, whether it's downtown, but the knowledge of the law, and especially when people get legal advice. Remember, the crime is committed against the state, not the individual. So individuals, if they feel like the justice is not where they want it to be, there's a civil court for it, which is why our minister, Honorable Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Honorable Delroy Chuck, introduces his green paper about ADR, alternative dispute resolution, and what it is supposed to do, recognizing that the simple disputes is what often leads to murder. You have people who report matters to the police station when they're at the domestic level. If you are a man and you go to the police station and say, "Bossy, my wife beat me, she thumped me on my head, me get a cocoa, she all say, who, I can't leave the house, help me." The man say, "Man, you a man of yard, man, go handle your business. What you feel like, what you do?" And they're the first to come and put hand behind your head. And if you know, in these days, if you move too fast, when I move, you move. Just like that, radam, you get filled with bullets when it escalates. Somebody said, "Big man, gala beat you, my G," and I laugh. And that's really how it is when it comes to just the dynamics of patriarchy. And there is a course at the university, Gender, Sex, and Society, and research has been done. So I'm not just speaking colloquially. This is from an education standpoint. This is from facts and research that was done, where people find it funny if a man get beat by a woman. And many times, even last year, a man, his girlfriend stabbed him, and then she run off, and but it's abuse. And if him did take up a 2-by-4 ply and lick her across her face, he would be the worst thing. But he sought help from the police, who failed to help him. So that's the criminological aspects that we're talking about, especially when acts of violence in the domestic space is difficult to report. We always only see the end part of it. And I've always said this. When I go to family court, my clients always don't like me in the end, because the only thing I am concerned about is the product of the relationship. The product being the sons and daughters of Jamaica, who may be the rocket scientist, the artist, the politician, the lawyer, the doctor, whatever you want to say, the best interest of the child. So them all, every time, as soon as it now work out, people foot stink, people mouth stink, people body parts don't big again or them big, small or big, depends on who's saying it. Who could have cook can cook. Who could have spread the bed can make the spread the bed. And who lie on wicked. And then when they go into the divorce, you have to decide who side you're on. Mother-in-laws can't love son-in-law or daughter-in-law. Brothers and sisters and friends have to pick sides when we did not experience all the niceties in the bedroom. We must come and make decisions and take sides when things go sour. So it is in this context that we have to appreciate that there is always a story. There's always a history behind it. Well, let's talk murder. Murder is what? Is when a man or a woman of sound memory and at the age of discretion unlawfully killeth within any country of the realm any reasonable creature in rerum natura under the king's peace with malice aforethought, either expressed by the party or implied by law, so as the party wounded or hurt due of the wound or hurt, not due, but die of the wound or hurt within a year and a day after the same. So you see, the law of murder, it kind of different other places in the world. But in Jamaica, if you stab somebody, a wounding with intent or grievous bodily harm or whatever, or unlawful wounding. But if they die before a year and a day pass, the prosecutor can come and charge you with murder. So know it. What are the elements that the prosecutor has to prove? 5 of them, that the accused must be a person of sound memory and age of discretion. So you ever know the madman in your community or the mad woman, we call them mad. I mean, now talk about homeless. Don't mix them up. People where head chip and not even Bellevue can help them. Or them selectively mad when the time come. Murder don't apply to them. You have to have sound mind, sound memory. Yeah? And the victim must be a reasonable creature in being. So even though we have abortion law, the law clearly defines when you're a human being, and the law clearly defines when you are dead. Unless you don't want to know what that is right now, just know that you can't murder a fetus, but you can do abortion. All right. The accused must have acted with malice aforethought. And what is malice aforethought? It's really intention, like premeditation. The accused must have intended to kill or cause grievous bodily harm, and then the victim must die within a year and a day. So you need to know these things before you go on the internet. Mind you, you can go on the internet. I recommend, if you're careless, that you go on X. That's where the careless people are. Not to say that when you're on TikTok, you're not careless. It's just that you actually tap up the screen and you make some money. Shout out to Tavi, make a whole heap of money the other day when he was having his crash out. So we can have a different conversation. And big up Rosalie. I don't know you that one, but big you up. Big up you. All right. So again, you need to know these things before you go out on the internet. People laughing, but I'm not streaming on on X, so you can't come for me. And if you're over there coming for me, you're over there by yourself. You'll come, I mean, I'll bring you. You see what I say? Somebody said Tavi was acting. Best actor. I'm saying, whether it was that or not, may I big him up. Very talented social media creator, and who don't get the credit that him deserves. So I just bring it. That had nothing to do with, I was talking about the crash out. Anyway, and about the sense and the nonsense. But you need to know what the law is before you go and make your comments out there. So the law of murder is set out in common law, but the legal definition of murder is the unlawful killing of a human being in the Queen's peace with malice aforethought. That's just where you really need to know right away. When somebody, we can tell you, there's something called actus reus, and I might need to spend another time tell you about that and why it is important. But the actus reus of murder is the unlawful killing of a human being. So when somebody dies, the action, the physical act, simplicity. So if you shoot somebody, if you stab somebody, if you do whatever you do, that is just the actus reus. But there's more elements that the prosecutor have to prove. So don't take it lightly. So the unlawful killing can be by an act or an omission. So omissions you have to know, and we can talk about that if you ask. But again, while we're doing this, let me tell you something why I always laugh. The case of R.V. Clegg, I'm telling about this, you know, is like, this case, we should have to teach it, you know. The public have to know about it. It's the case where the border patrol man shooting at the car and kill people picnic and try to say that he shouldn't be charged for murder. And the Privy Council said, no, you think because you're in a police uniform, you not commit murder. Once you kill somebody, that's the actus reus. The unaliving is it's murder. And it must be put up for a decision as to whether or not you can be excused, i.e. self-defense, which is a complete defense. Well, in our law in Jamaica, I must tell you this, in our law, we have defenses to murder, right? And provocation is one of them. Suicide pact is one of them. Don't ask me how what suicide pact is, but we can have a thing about provocation and how sexist provocation is. Somebody said, why does Jamaica use less than 12 jurors? Because Jamaica small and it's hard to get the jurors to come. So the law have to go up to the times and put the people them in the box and take care of them. But capital murder remains 12. Anyway, so that is just a quick idea about it. So when you think about murder and the law of murder, and when you think about social agency and what all these things contemplate, you get a sense that that we definitely need to rethink about how we are going to make comment or how we think about it, because life is not a video game, life is real. Trying to see if anybody have any questions for me, because I know that I said a lot, but yeah, I want people to just have a good idea. Somebody said 15. Oh, big up yourself in a current. I see you. Right. So having said that, we have a framework, right, of it, of the whole idea of murder. So we do know this. So as I said, murder, the worst thing you can do is to be labeled a murderer. And people not forget, I think it's the most unforgivable sin that somebody can be find themselves in. Um, that's just the reality. Um, when somebody says that you are a murderer, or your people call you that or identify you as a murderer, it it just goes without saying that right there and then people are going to judge you as that, as such. And then once you find yourself there, it's difficult to undo that, or it's difficult to not be considered those things, right? Now, when we look at how people would say, for instance, the when one thinks about violence, or one tries to say to themselves, how can I get from being palatable? Well, let me tell you, there was a famous case called Alawalia. This woman was abused by her husband, and this is a case that says provocation is a defense that doesn't apply to murder. So Alawalia wait till her cook him a nice dinner and wait till him go upstairs. Cause him come home, him beat her all the time and she don't leave. Battered woman syndrome come up, and him come home one night and say, "Hey, my girl, I divorce you. So I just make so I gotta eat the last meal. When me get up, I pack my bag and leave you. Cause you're a waste woman." And him go up to sleep. She say, "You beat me, you think you can leave me?" And she did go upstairs and she burn him up. She burned him up with the oil, and then she burned the burning bed. And they were charging her for murder. And she tried to raise the defense of provocation, but they said only men could be provoked. And as a result, when she was found guilty of murder, and she went all the way to the House of Lords. And naturally, what they did was to find this thing called battered woman syndrome. So the judges had to create a space to say that there was harm, there was trauma, and she wasn't a murderer in the true sense of murder. And her sentence was commuted to manslaughter. No, one would say, but why would somebody? What is this thing about manslaughter? Well, let me just shed some light on the whole manslaughter thing real quick, and then we go back to our usual programming of what we're talking about. Well, manslaughter is I wouldn't call it a defense, but it's it's the partial defense. But you have constructive manslaughter, you have which is the important one, but the manslaughter is actually the defense of provocation. So it's means that it's the unlawful killing of a person without malice aforethought. So the intention to kill is not there, right? So you have voluntary manslaughter and you have involuntary manslaughter. But they said voluntary manslaughter usually occurs in the heat of passion or as a result of provocation. So for those, there are people who like to Google, and they may come across, shout out to Miss Ronnie, who went on Google to look on manslaughter, calling her out. And in that here's what she came up with in relation to her Google find. Provocation is the action of arousing sexual desire or interest, especially deliberately. And you have to, while we say context matters, here's the thing. If you are on a bus and somebody spit on you, or somebody fight you, or somebody draw you out, as them say, cuss you nasty, like how them behave on the internet, and be very disgusting with the language that they use, and provoke you to anger, then that is the heat of passion legally that is being referenced. And that is a partial defense, so that you will be a manslaughterer if that is accepted. Oftentimes, the facts of the case where manslaughter can be made out on the facts of the case, then the judge have a duty to put it to the jury if the case goes to trial. In this modern dispensation, it has always been that way. And we have the Constitution that now features a lot in criminal law. So although criminal law is rigid, here in Jamaica, we have a very progressive and prospective charter of rights, and our judges are aware of it. And our prosecutors now, and defense lawyers, they now consider constitutional implications. So they, as a part of the administrative arm of the court system again, look at best outcomes, especially when the law is lackadaisical and is not putting things in place per se to give direction. They definitely use the tools in the best way that they can, until the law catch up in a way that makes it clear. And when I say catch up, meaning makes it palatable for the public to understand, because it's language. But here's what I mean. You have the Criminal Justice Administration Act. It allows for plea agreements. If you plea at the first possible time, you can get up to 50% off for your sentence. The only thing that would prevent that is what is called mandatory minimum. Well, one of the key elements of manslaughter is that it comes with no mandatory minimum. Murder starts, I think they changed it. The law has changed, but the mandatory minimum for murder used to be 15 years. I know there's some law change that say it starts at a certain time. And then there's this ludicrous behavior when it comes to anti-gang trials, where it's mostly 20 years maximum you get for the same murder. But anyway, that's another thing. But because there's no mandatory minimum sentence, the judge has the discretion to look at the case in the whole, the facts, credit the defendant, and come to a sentence that is reasonable, that facilitates rehabilitation, accepting that it is mistakes, no matter how you feel about it. So much so that one must credit people for not wasting the court's time and accepting responsibility, even when it is at the 11th hour. Because you see, once upon a time in Jamaica, and I'm going to tell you a story right now. Do I have time to tell the story? We have 9 minutes. I'm going to tell the story after the break. But I will say to you that when you don't waste the court's time, it makes a difference. The court is clogged with people who have some of the conduct is unforgivable, and everybody wants to escape the hands of justice, right? And just right there and then you'll get an understanding. But play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. That's just the reality, especially in these times. But there is, before I tell you the story where we're going to get to where we get to the story, I just want to say two things. Alternative dispute resolution, have to commend the minister for the green paper, read it in its entirety, and having a national policy on alternative dispute resolution is important um, to curb violence, because disputes in communities, in families, in spaces, and just how Jamaica, in or even on the internet, um, that cause animosity, anger, harm. People have issues over land. People have issues, especially family. Dead left are the worst thing. It's the root of all evil. You think of money? Try dead left. And yes, Jam Caramel mediation is a part of the arm of alternative dispute resolution. Arbitration, also this the idea of what is called restorative justice. And restorative justice is a big tool because it empowers communities, it empowers the victim and the defendant to come at to resolving issues. Oftentimes when people in court for wounding and all kind of madness is not over the actual wounding. And like I said, criminal law is rigid. You go in there, and especially woman say, yeah, me see them point a gun, and no gun no dead, you know. Them just them they give them man bun, and the man find out and say, my girl, you have to lift up in her. And she say, yeah, him did have a gun, because she knows that when him there at jail, she not have to come out of the house, and the house it belongs to his mother, but his mother did dead, and then she get for staying at the house while him there at jail. And if she testify and testimony good, and the judge believe that him is a menace to society, she sent him away for 15 years minimum for the possession of the firearm and for the assault. And she get for living at the house because him brother them they are foreign. And then she have somewhere for live, and then she can bring in Joe Grind. And so it going on because I'm telling you, you have cases where these things happen. But anyway, once you appreciate that, you get a good idea of how important it is to sit in a healing circle with your representative and feed them representative and talk about it. And then when you hear everything, Joe Grind agreeing, can get somewhere. You have to stay out in the cold front, because when the man gone to jail, I say it go. And so that is something. This, and you know, you have to appreciate the language and understand the realities of what goes on in society. Now, because these are real situations, real life situations that happen, you get an appreciation for restorative justice, for mediation, for what they call this again, arbitration, and what the tools are. And it actually won't the backlogs in the court, because people can resolve disputes among themselves without the judge having to put down the heavy fist of the law. Oftentimes, sending somebody to prison don't change the fact, say you're still in a mother house and you have to go come out one way or another. Even if them give somebody how much time in prison, it doesn't. The land issues between family, friends, neighbors, this, it doesn't go away. So the root of the dispute is addressed, and oftentimes you can speak honestly without fear of retribution, without punishment from the court, when the issues germane to what needs to be solved is addressed in that situation. Um, so having said that, you get the idea, or you have a good um, sense of what is happening. Good. Now, want to share something with you in terms of when we think about the high crime society, um, what women go through. And as I said, this made my whole year. So if you haven't seen it, you can think about it before we go on, before we get to the break, and then you get we can have conversations about it. So here it is now. A So yeah, like I said, these things, yeah. Don't see it happening, but let's see. Let's see if it come up now. Yeah.
You wash your car, it rains.
Yes. Here.
Sometimes there's no need to be upset. You know, think about the silver lining. Think about the sunshine at the end of a rainy day. Sometimes reflect, you know.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on right there, but like I said, that made my day. Um, don't think it was all of it, but if you can go and look at it. Um, now, as I said, we're coming up for the break, and I want you to contemplate. Do you agree manslaughter is sexier than murder? The concept of manslaughter is sexy. You get to say that I never intended, I didn't have malicious, I didn't have malice aforethought. Things happened in a way that provoked me, or I didn't really mean to do it, and the circumstances caused me. So I'm not as bad as those people who are murderers. That how the commandments. I mean, the commandments of the Bible says, "Thou shalt not murder." It never said, "Thou shalt not be a manslaughterer." Yeah, you understand? It's just the language. So women like I just played. Let me see if it's any better, or if I download the wrong thing, but let me try again. Here we go.
Have you ever noticed that every time you wash your car, it rains? Sometimes there's no need to be upset. You know, think about the silver lining. Think about the sunshine at the end of a rainy day. Sometimes reflect, you know.
so, so when for those of you who know where that's coming from, that it is actually a parody, one would say, but it was excellently executed. Um, get it? Pun intended. In terms of it's Starlink me using. Look, somebody tell me some need Starlink, and a Starlink me I use. Jaja. Ever since them buy up the wall of the Starlink with government money, the real Starlink now work again. I don't know what go on right there. So Auditor General, what go on for the Starlink business? But we are, as I said, we you see Donald Thompson, I come bright yourself about thing. But you see, that is why me always make sure say me drink pure water, But they can't draw me out, They can't provoke me. They can't do it. So big up to everybody who stayed this far. And at the top of the hour, we're gonna delve into it because I have a very interesting story to tell that happened in the 1950s. And it sheds some light. Sometimes one wonders, they say what's in a name, but sometimes the more things change, the more they remain the same. One wonders, or not. But stay tuned, because we're at the top of the hour, and definitely, I think that while we get used to the show being at this time, we talk about it. Daylight saving time coming soon, so we need to always remind them of that. But yeah,
That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way. That's right, It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way.
Still on that airtime, on that commercial break. Fret not thyself. We get in there. We get in there. Yeah. Yeah, before the commercial come back, I have this in my mind when I think about just whole issues. Like I have this garbage issue that's happening right now in Portland. But I can tell you, I come to Kingston and the same issue is there. I sit and I say to myself, what sometimes I'm wondering in my mind what exactly is thing. So if you say, hey, government, what are you doing about the garbage? I'll tell you in my mind, I could be wrong, but I'll tell you what it looks like. So let me just lay the foundation. Whether it be garbage, whether it be housing, whether it be response to Hurricane Melissa, whether it be response to crime. No, crime kind of different because the police really do them thing in terms of them not around for unalive you. But when it comes to just any issue, social housing, social anything, education, you name, pick a ministry, agriculture, whatever you wanna think. Um, I just think like when I go to government and say, can you do this or can you fix this? This is what it looks like. Their response. Tell you tell me where is it? Did I lie? Huh? No, it's age. It's age. You know, they love me with me here. Why every time I come on here about my gray hair, and the bad mind over my gray hair, I'm convinced now. Yeah, so we're gonna never laugh. Somebody said a long time them sing with the black hair and this and this. So one minute to start time. But am I wrong about this? I'm gonna read when we come back and I'll show it again. But in my mind, that's what it looks like to me when I say government. Help me with this or help me with that. Their response is exactly that. Um, I just sit down and I just laugh. Personally, that's my thing. But yeah, we are back. So for those of you who are just joining us, the time is now 6:05, and you are tuned into Context Matters. And if you're watching from Reggae Global Radio, big up to you. If you are tuned in from Best FM 100, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are talking about matters in context matters, debunking public perception, murder versus manslaughter. And, for my people on TikTok, thanks for sticking around. Appreciate you all. And thanks for tapping up that screen. The same thing, if you are on YouTube, thanks for staying there. I see the views going up, and I appreciate that. So I was saying again, I feel like you raise issues, and I'm speaking on this because I'm the member of parliament for Portland Eastern, and notwithstanding, it is public knowledge. The Prime Minister himself says central government is responsible for roads, responsible for garbage collection, responsible for just basically the running of the country. The members of parliament are representatives elected by the people, but your job is to just bring it to the attention of government, and government will fix it. And from time to time, they will tell you what it is that you need to do. But when the member of parliament responds to emergencies and cannot help everybody, it's the duty of central government. That's the Prime Minister who speaks. The man who, 1 p.m. who was elected, that's his words, not mine. So you live in a parish, and the garbage today a ship finds itself in Portland. Yes. And it's a big deal. Tourists is on the land, but the garbage don't take up. Place look like I don't even know what. You speak about garbage collection, you speak in parliament, and you said we need to have a robust system of garbage collection to prevent disease. It's a health crisis. You parish council, especially the worst areas, and I'm going to show you. It has the mayor of Portland, the mayor of Portland, who is the councillor for the Mansion Hill division. He drives past these places every day, does very little to solve those issues. So, and he lives there. He lives right there, in that area. I'm singling out Mansion Hill. And it is very unfortunate because you see it, and whether you say the parish council, whether you say the solid waste agency, is more garbage than maybe the capacity for them to pick up. But that's something that central government has to pick. They're the ones who running around and keeping press releases and putting out that them buy new garbage truck and them stand up and them cut ribbon for it. All right. And when we look at those things, and it's the same thing. They fix the road. The road is there. They say it's fixed there. When you say the road won't fix, they say shut up. The MP fix all the roads. We don't have any road problem. I know them walking around and saying that I am the individual who is fixing a road with sand. I throw sand in a hole. And again, I'm telling you, it's the labor rights holes. It's the JLP hole. Any hole we want fill in our Portland, the JLP hole. Borrowing from the words of the former member of parliament and minister, Pernell Charles Sr. But we must understand and appreciate that. But anyway, so here's my response. Bringing public awareness to what I find is unsanitary living conditions for an entire constituency, that being Portland Eastern. And it looks like this.
Greetings, I'm Isa Buchanan, Member of Parliament for Portland Eastern, and today I'm taking you right through the constituency to show you the current situation in relation to the garbage. Garbage collection has not been consistent.
Sometimes 2-3 months of garbage and take me back.
Hard money before they
Garbage, just on the road, no respect for health.
And you have pad and pampers, the dog invested to man for else for the As you can see, there is always the garbage pile up situation. What we face is pollution, because as you can see, the garbage piles up and then it goes on into the ocean and you have pollution right there. In the alternative garbage, sometimes because of the failure to collect the garbage, they light the garbage and then that's the pollution.
A few years ago, they come every day and just look and turn and go and come back.
Across Portland Eastern, this is the current state of affairs with garbage collection. I think we are a bit fatigued now in seeing garbage skips either full or messy. We are calling on the local government minister, the Honorable Desmond Mackenzie, to do something about this.
Yeah, no, so that is one issue, right? So I complain, and I kid you not, when you complain about the situation, this is the when they are responding to me or they're giving you some answer, this is what it looks like. Or so to me. No, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but that in my mind is the reality. That's how they answer when I said this is the situation. They just respond and say just what you saw a while ago. At least that's what it looks like to me. So I say with a black belt, the important thing is it. I don't know. Maybe, I could be wrong, but it reminds me of Sean Storm song, "Itch, Natch, Nitch, Match." You know, similar to pitchy patchy behavior. When you call out the realities, people are upset that you say what something looks like, and why we should refrain from it, because responses like that does not advance our country. And it's important again to put things in context, because you have to know who is responsible for what. So responses like, I should take my personal money and buy some garbage truck and pick up the garbage because you are the MP, that is very, very, very nonsensical. And what about when persons have serious issues that they need to, you must be able to meet them where government cannot do so. Because a while ago I just explained to you over the first hour what a high crime society is, finding ways and means to cope with the realities in your society and navigate the harsh realities of why crime is high. It sounds bad, but I will go as far as saying I'm of the view that even failure to collect garbage is criminal. It creates an environment where people become hostile and upset. And people can misinterpret communication. You're passing a skip that stink and you make up your face and somebody say, yeah, make up your face on me from do you nothing, and that becomes a little dispute that go past alternative dispute resolution and turns into murder. Not to mention people getting sick. People have become sick because those spaces become a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Those spaces become a breeding ground for all kind of communicable diseases as a result of the failure for government to act. And my response to all of that is government should simply react. It's not me complaining. So for those who say, oh, get up and do something, I have done it. I have called out the persons who are supposed to do it. And if they don't want to do it, all they have to do is step aside and let the real boss them take over and actually do the work. It's your taxpayers' money that's supposed to be spent to ensure that you don't suffer at the end of the day. That's the simple reality. And for those who find it offensive, it's most unfortunate that you would even feel that way when something is a reality. Right? So again, that's me saying to you that we're to think about the realities of these things. Now, and don't get me wrong, there are many things going on, and I realize I also appreciate and realize that this is the world that we live in now, and we have to just deal with it accordingly. Anyway, again, as I was saying, we are debunking public perception between murder versus manslaughter. So I'm going to tell you about a man called Vincent Silvera. Vincent Silvera is from Portland. I want you to understand this. So this case that I'm telling you about is in Port Antonio, and I'm taking you back to 1952, and this is around when he was caught is about December 5th, 1952. So Kern must be saying, Jaja, December 5th. Why Vincent Silvera have to commit a crime on December 5th? Well, you never did born yet, Kern, so don't feel no way. But December 5th, 1952, Vincent Silvera was a wealthy man. He was married to Martha Silvera. So this again now is in the 1950s, as I said. So want people to appreciate that this is a reality. And so in 1952, it's unheard of that a rich man would do something so horrible. What is the horrible thing? Well, Vincent Silvera decided that he would murder his wife, Martha. Well, certainly now in 2026, it will be unaliving Martha. And what he did, and why the fact is important, is he cut her head off. So he severed her head from her body, and he took the body and take it out to, well, people say it's Folly, near the sea in Folly. So there's a cave in Anchovy, but they say it's near the sea. And her body was found in the cave, right? And it was discovered headless. So what you could indicate from that is that it was a violent crime. So they investigated. He was putting out reward to find his wife. His wife was missing, and he was saying maybe she gone to the family, and he never know. But nobody can find his wife. But then this body is discovered. Let me tell you what the legal outcome was. Well, it concluded with Vincent Silvera being hanged for the murder of his wife. And it reflected in the 1950s the legal consequences for homicide in Jamaica. Right? So in the 1950s, you can just imagine this case was widely reported because nobody now do that. Domestic violence, when you think about how people think about society, this is pre-independence. Jamaica became independent in 1962. So 10 years before independence, man commit domestic violence against women. Yeah? And it was widely reported, I remember, due to the brutal nature of the crime and the subsequent capital punishment, because he take off your head, and Jamaica was Moses' law back in the day, them hang him. And the murder of Martha and the execution of Vincent Silvera represents one of the notable criminal cases in the mid-20th century, Jamaica. Think of that. And we know you probably never hear about it. So it was influenced, a case like this has influenced, or it is influential in shaping public discussions about crime, punishment, and justice in the country during that period. What it looks like now is guided by a robust charter of rights, recognizing that the death penalty is the worst of the worst, and the state define the way how criminal law works. This country is respectfully not in a position to hand down death penalty because of the finality of death. So you would understand and appreciate why extrajudicial killing, to me, will always be wrong and can never be justified, save and except that self-defense, when taken through the court of law, exonerates somebody, a complete defense. But murder as defined in our common law and even in our statute, in our offenses against the person's act, is that the unlawful killing, the actus reus, is committed when the physical act is done. The investigation is as to whether it was provocation, self-defense, or anything that will excuse the actus reus. So, while historical criminal cases can be of interest, I just want people to know this is for research purposes and educational purposes. Let me put out the disclaimer. But it's violence. I'm not celebrating violence. I'm making that clear. I'm giving people an understanding that the way how social media, what Jamaica looks like now, because of how social media is so all in your faces, and it's highlighting every single thing that's happening. And people are mad sometimes when you highlight things. But remember, again, we're talking about a context. So Vincent Silvera was a very rich man in Portland, Port Antonio. So this took place in Port Antonio, pre-independence. So one would think that in a civilized society where a wealthy man is married and then finds out about or accuses from his events infidelity, whether jealousy, and prosecutor leads circumstantial evidence because the head was never found. And so Vincent Silvera took the gamble and was tried by a jury of 12 of his peers. And his peers back then, as you can imagine, were white people. And the jury found it very disturbing, the idea that a man could dismember his wife and take the head of his wife off, and it was never returned. So there was no closure for the family. And the circumstantial evidence in 1950, circumstantial evidence was used. So they never need the Maitland case, cell phone pinging, and they never need the type of connectivity if you know if couch missing, and if you're more concerned about your couch, and if the puzzle don't fit, you must acquit. No, they never need all of that in 1950. Wife found in anchovy in a remote area, your wife missing, rumors of infidelity and cheating and Joe grind, and husband dissatisfied. And the ultimate outcome is hanging. Moses' law. So when somebody goes into the archives and look up Vincent Silvera and Martha, and say Vincent Silvera shares something of interest with both Batman and Superman. He was married to Martha, but Batman and Superman, their mothers were Martha. You understand? So Batman parents were murdered, so was Superman parents. So you can imagine, even in fiction, the idea that a woman would be murdered, the result of that, because a lot of times when women are murdered and their wives, they have children, and the effect that and the harm on the family The result, certainly in the fictional world, is Superman and Batman the Vigilante, but him rich. So you take what it will. I will not cast any aspersions on Vincent, but to say that the law punish him in the greatest way. So to Vincent Silvera, who died in the 1950s by the state, by hanging, if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I can't think of an excuse for anybody, especially from a human rights perspective, to bring harm to a woman, to bring harm to a person. And murder is final. Unaliving is final. And so the law sets out, and if found on the facts, and I will just say that, what's your excuse? Because when somebody turns up dead, there must be justification for the killing. Whether you're a police, whether you're a bad man, gunman, wicked man, a tech man for toy, Glock in your hand, murder and destroy, whatever it is that you think you are. And women aren't excluded from participating in the same thing. So murder on all levels is going to always be wrong. And as the law, the mechanism of law puts in the space what is acceptable and what is not, that is what we should be thinking about. So had Vincent Silvera not waste the court's time, or had confessed and make amends, then maybe he would not have been given the death penalty. Now, to be fair, Jamaica has not handed down the death penalty since 1988. And with the United Nations and the Charter of Rights and all of that, one can appreciate that, hey, it's not something that I think we would revert to. And I must make it clear, I am very anti the death penalty. Because again, I said death is final, and the purpose of sentencing and a term of imprisonment is for rehabilitation purposes, albeit punitive. No, like I said, Privy Council, final court of our land, they best, according to them, know what the worst of the worst is. I leave it where the current state of the law is as of now. But again, having shared what Jamaica was in the 1950s, are we, because of social media, being put into a space where we are overly fed with these conducts that has always been taking place? They are just persons who are deviant, whether sexual deviant, whether murder deviant, people who are broken because of whatever is happening in society, that we are not in position to maybe judge or to properly assess what's happening. And we are in a culture where, as I said, we conduct ourselves, and albeit selectively, in a rigid way, so that we aren't able to critically assess these situations and put it in the context, where we are so invested in outcomes without knowing the facts, without knowing the issues, without knowing the trauma that is associated with every case, and every case turns on its own facts. So I've had an entire conversation, and I need not mention names of anybody that's happening in the current state. I mean, today, happening in the Supreme Court, a famous case is suspended because of outbreaks of tuberculosis, allegedly. So one wonders, we are conducting ourselves in and carrying out the functions of the law in environments that don't facilitate human rights and don't facilitate the safety of not just the defendant, but of the families of victims and jurors where necessary, police officers, court administrators, staff, everybody that's a part of the realities. And one wonders, what is it that we need to do to ensure that we care for our brothers and sisters, especially while we're on a fact-finding exercise. And so the police, who are the introduction to the fact-finding exercise, the investigators, are to do so with care and with respect for human rights. And no, there can never be a comparison between deviant behavior of persons in society and what is expected of those who hold office, those who are expected to do better. Yeah, it even goes to the heart of how we trample on freedom of expression and how we suppress thoughts and ideas because we don't like how people feel. And then the people who want to express themselves are also angry when you sum it up and call them idiots or careless or insignificant, and they are mad. So even you don't have the right to have freedom of expression to respond to people who are expressing themselves. And sometimes that discourse, because of the absence of context, which matters, the absence of critical thinking, the absence of proper assessment, the focus on all that is negative, so that you could be in a conversation and say, I like all that is happening. These things are progressive. And while you're having conversation about that which is progressive, when you point out the things that cause anything that is progressive to fall short of progression, people are mad at you. I.e., the attempt made to amend the Jury Act, the aspect of the legislation which needed more work, that may be politically correct, and saying that it needs more work and persons are offended by it. But at the end of the day, the minister listened to the comments, and that's why his King's Council withdrew that aspect, but went on with the part that benefits members of the society, because that is why legislators pass laws. It's supposed to benefit the society. It's regulating society so people can navigate while becoming the best versions of themselves, not making laws to hinder the well-being of persons, not making laws so that the society can be unprogressive. And then having the reality that, remember, everything that I spoke about. Can you imagine 1950, Vincent Silvera kills Martha Silvera? I don't even know if I can call it a 9-day wonder, because I don't think I was a thought in 1952, especially when my father was born 1949 and my mother in 1952. That was not thought, certainly for them, much less to think about what public perception was back then and how did it come about that. So jurors clearly could have done their job without persons interfering in the internet world and clouding persons who have the ability. Jurors from time immemorial were the bastion of hope, the great defense between a person accused of crime, cloaked in the presumption of innocence, and the wicked state that just want to convict. So this year alone, Madam DPP has executed herself in such a way that credit must be given to her. She's about the law. She's not about pontificating on social media to please people that have very little understanding of what the law is about. And as she said, for those who would worry more about them couch than the well-being of the woman, what say you? And serious lyrics them there, you know. But I'm gonna leave that alone. Can't talk, nobody talk bad about DPP. Although I'm talking good, you know how that goes. And again, making decisions that is in the interest and the well-being of all stakeholders. That's what you call the interest of justice. So I said it in many spaces, you know, when I think about the Court of Appeal and the President of the Court of Appeal, when I think about the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice, yeah, I'm very, 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 very proud in Black History Month to be a black man. Proud, 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 proud. Jamaica have enough role models in this country alone that you not have to be a Croft, you not have to be a Kudumunu. There is enough role models out there that you can look to be the best versions of yourself. And yeah, right here on this program, I'm gonna add the learned DPP to it. And as time goes by, get to know her, because she's doing her work. Whether you like it or not, she's doing her work. And the same goes for the Chief Justice, whether you like it or not, or like him or not, he's doing his work. And the same thing for the President of the Court of Appeal. And it goes again to just what justice is to look like. And we will march along when our legislators and our parliamentarians take the business of the country seriously at all levels and learn to wear the many hats. So when you're a parliamentarian in Gordon House, what it is that we are to do there is the people's business. And the representation that comes from it is important because the people are watching. The same people who live their lives on public perception, who create the narratives. They are the people who must have role models, right? This is important. And so when we look at it and somebody says you're a good prosecutor, I said, no, I'm a defense attorney. And I seek justice. I go on a fact-finding mission, and I say he who asserts must prove. So the court of public perception, not public opinion, you know, public perception has no bearing on the facts and the evidence. And while you're on your fact-finding mission, you dare not breach the Constitution to do it. And one of the most significant things is the right to life. So that when people are accused of committing the most heinous crime, can't think of a crime more heinous than what Vincent Silvera did to his wife, Martha Silvera, in the 1950s, in the most peaceful parish in all of Jamaica, Portland, in particular in Port Antonio. So you dare not breach the constitutional rights. You dare not be judge and juror. A man must not be a judge in his own cause. So if you're accusing a man and you're investigating, investigate. Bring him before the court. Let the umpires of fairness and the judges of the fact and the judge of the law conduct that trial. And let the fact-finding exercise takes place without interference, without threat. without harm. Witnesses and defendants and complainants must be able to be in an environment where the fact-finding exercise is done in such a way that persons who are wrongfully accused of crimes can be vindicated, and where convicted persons know that the fat lady no sing yet. A part of the criminal justice system and its process is the appellate process, so that persons don't respect the outcomes. I always find it overtly offensive when somebody's conviction is overturned and somebody says, yes, but it was on a technicality. We know you don't know nothing because you never did it. And so people have to appreciate that. That is either you respect the outcomes, which is one of the reasons why I personally, whatever the verdict is, I respect the verdict and waste little to no time trying to explain to anybody whether or not the verdict is true or not. Because the exercise that we're talking about is done with whether you deduce or induce, induction or deduction, and whether this somebody say you don't have to be a quashi. These days when you can't catch quacky, them catch the shot, and it appears that that's all that is going on these days. But anyway, let me leave that alone. The fact-finding exercise is just that. And reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, means that it's not just satisfied till you feel sure, you know, is that you ensure that there is no alternative, especially when it comes to circumstantial evidence. So water they are ground, you better make sure say no rainfall, or in these days the tank round and back no bus make water dip on the ground before you say somebody spill it. So you have to dispossess that the doubt is not fanciful. And so that is why context matters. Because if we're not teaching society the difference between fanciful thoughts and ideas and emotions that people feel that you're not doing enough, or you're not bringing down justice, and whether DPP soft or where the judge do, and all of these things. This is why it take real people who love the law to submerge themselves in a criminal justice system, in a justice system, even civil, in an adversarial system, and don't get so emotional that you want to destroy the lives of your opponent, that you don't understand that the high stakes in a case is just that. Because when it is over, you go back to life, you go back to reality, and people move on. So legally, all I will say to the young lawyers out there, do the best for your clients, and the young prosecutor, do the best to find the facts. Because when it comes to the justice system, there really aren't any winners, you know. There are no winners, because I can tell you, in a country like the United States that have sent many persons, most of them black, to the death penalty, and the advancements in technology, especially DNA, that has shown that many of the convictions were wrong. Death is a final state that you can't undo. And giving these plaques, post-mortus, or whatever you call them, plaques, to say we are sorry that we put somebody to death that was innocent. And so even where guilt, when somebody maintains their innocence, maybe Vincent Silvera maintained his innocence right up to his death. and I'm having a conversation about somebody that I wasn't around and knew nothing of, but respecting the judgment. But to say that if evidence were to come up that it is not what it is, what would the state say? And who is the state? Because at then the state was 1950. So that was the jurisdiction of England. And while the Privy Council now says say what they say, it was done before a written constitution. It was tried, and how justice was meted out was not how it is done today with a constitution. But again, the basis of this is that murder and treason are the two worst things that you can do in any society. The highest form of crimes. You don't even want your name called with murder and treason. You can't wash off that stink, especially when cold front are blow. You can't. And appreciate, by virtue of this conversation, how important it is to be cloaked in the swag of being a manslaughterer and using the tools and mechanisms in the criminal justice system to escape the most gruesome brand that can be put to any human being. Cain being the first documented one in the Bible. We are a Christian society, I have to throw that out. And the mark, so that everybody knows when you're convicted, the mark of being a murderer. Even though in Jamaica you can thief ackee off of the Governor General tree. Yeah, of the Governor General's tree, and that conviction of thieving ackee is identical to that of murder because of public perception. So you can be convicted of anything and they treat it as if you committed murder. But to those who know, being a manslaughterer means that you never had the intention. And oftentimes, persons find themselves in heated conversations, even brother and sister, and things flare up, domestic violence, and somebody ends up dead. And it's just simply, no, I don't think especially when it not, sometimes people just never had the intention as set out in the law to commit the act in the manner that people say. But like I say, every case turns on its own fact. And this conversation today on Context Matters about debunking public perception of murder versus manslaughter is one where the public needs to understand that in the absence of knowing the facts and the history, especially when people are having their relationships, some of us, we can't even keep one relationship. Some of us can't even maintain a relationship, let alone to be judges and arbitrators of outcomes and have the worst opinions of people. So I'm gonna speak about that and leave you with that. But as I said, we oftentimes focus on the negative, and there are positives. So again, what's something positive I can leave you with? Well, here's my thing. When I'm not in court, when I'm not running up and down doing many other things, I find myself
Buchanan, Member of Parliament for Portland East. I'm Isa Buchanan, Member of Parliament for Portland Eastern. Today we're going to be going into the Fellowship Division, in particular Comfort Castle, to go and look at Comfort Castle Primary and Infant. It's a school that was damaged by Hurricane Melissa. A lot of improvements is needed in the space. So one of the things we're looking at is the Ministry of Education approved renovation for the auditorium and just the roofing generally. It's a very huge project and much needed renovation for the Comfort Castle Primary and Infant. So we're going to look at what's happening there and what else is needed. One of the things I did notice, though, just generally in terms of Comfort Castle and where it's situated, that particular school, it needs proper fencing in keeping with the best interest of the child, and the Child Care and Protection Act is always a need to protect our children, our youth from the elements.
Yeah, so again, as I said, we take a lot of things for granted. Somebody said to me, how do we know that there was an argument? Somebody says, I'm saying somebody, okay, gone. But there are a lot of questions in relation to the argument and saying how we know it was an argument. Yes, say who am I? It says, how do we know there was an argument? We don't. Can an argument be a pretext to commit murder with the intent to get manslaughter charge? We don't know. Like I said, the manslaughter occurs on the facts of the case, and where any defense, and manslaughter meaning the defense of provocation. So on the facts of the case, if provocation is evident, even if he did not raise it or she did not raise it, the judge has a duty to put it to the jury that manslaughter has arisen, including, can you imagine you go to trial and you say that I have an alibi, and the alibi is that I was with my girlfriend in St. Kitts and we did travel and I wasn't there, and while the evidence is being led, it's clear that you were there. It's clear that the people did run you down and you drop and you trip over the log and you take up 2 big stones and you fling it and it bust up them head and them dead. It's clear that you were there. The judge cannot say that while the judge says you heard the defendant raise alibi, you must also know that on the facts the defendant tripped over a log while he was being chased by the victims, and while he was being chased, he found 2 stones and him drop, roll, play Danny Shandy, and then he threw the 2 stones and it connected them head and them dead. It's a matter for you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to either reject the alibi. And if you reject the alibi, if you accept that it was self-defense, then you must find him not guilty. If you reject the alibi, it doesn't mean that the defendant is guilty. If you don't accept this, you still must then go to the prosecution's case and see if the prosecution has presented evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. And the doubt must not be fanciful. Yeah, reasonable doubt isn't fanciful. You can't say, hey, I feel him do it or not. It must be beyond a reasonable doubt. So you must be satisfied that you sure that what them saying never did go so. Otherwise, you must acquit. That is the duty of the jury. It's not just a my spirit tell me say I man, me not like him kind of nose big, or me not like the one they call me not like people who are Rasta. So he do it. Or me not like say the person come from uptown, and me not like ghetto people, so they must do it. Or all the things that people say. It's the facts. Somebody said, I'm not sure if everyone can pick up when you are talking metaphorically. What I will say about that is that persons who are avid listeners, viewers to Context Matters, they have developed the critical thinking skills to know when somebody's being sarcastic. We have this program once a week to try to empower Jamaicans and those in the diaspora and anywhere in the world that you are to develop the critical thinking skills, to understand what the power of words is, but also to debunk misinterpretation. Lauren Hill would say it's the miseducation of, in this case, Isaac Buchanan. So people have to educate themselves and understand that critical thinking is a tool that is necessary, and we probably need to dust off the common entrance papers and start ensuring that the children who we are raising have the tools that they need to be critical thinkers. We're gone from the days it takes a critical thinker to know that if students come to school and it's cold and them have on sweater, you don't tell them to take off the sweater because you can't see them uniform. But who am I? Yeah. So just know that as we have that conversation, the key aspect of this entire conversation is appreciating that public perception may oftentimes cause you to not appreciating a working justice system, the dynamics of the law, the advancements in law, the amendments to laws that allow persons to make use of the law. And at the end of the day, you know, it's he who feels it knows it. And they say, walk a mile in my shoes, or whatever the saying is. And you get an appreciation that although this thing is entertainment for a lot of us, people's lives after the 9-day one have to continue. So while these high profile cases are being put out in the media every single day for people to make salacious comments about its outcomes and disparage prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, victims and their families, and defendants and their families. When the 9-day one is over, you have children who become fatherless. You have children who are motherless because of situations. You have mothers and fathers who die of broken hearts because of what the system has done to their child, and whether or not the fact-finding exercise was carried out within the constitutional ways, the constitutional parameters. Yeah. And when we think about these things, I'm just going to leave it with you that context, in fact, does matter. And we need to know the facts, understand the law to the best of our ability before we shape public perception and go on platforms and provide our public opinions, whether it's professional or unprofessional, because word is power. So I leave you with that. And again, I hope that I have made the case for all to agree that being a manslaughterer, if God forbid, if that is the case that you have to go down, is way sexier than being a murderer. Right? So we have to debunk that and understand what the law is and why outcomes are in the interest of justice. So see you guys next week, and enjoy Reggae Month and great Black History Month. Have a great Black History Month to everybody. All right.
It took some time to understand, yeah, just what it takes to be a man. Now it seems each day you learn something to make a better way. And growing up ain't just a phase, it's reality. And sometimes it's hard to face the world with your head screwed on. But in time you will see, it comes naturally, like the hurt and the pain. It's a part of the game. It's all a part of life, to laugh and to cry. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a keep your head up and keep it stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way. But if you need a helping hand, just call me, I will be your friend. And when it gets hard to face the world with your head screwed on, just tell yourself you can. And that's when you'll understand that the hurt and the pain, it's a part of the game. It's all a part of life, to laugh and to cry. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. You gotta keep on moving on. Don't let no one stand in your way. Gotta keep on pressing on. As we pray for better days, keep it moving. Moving to the next. When they try to bring you down, we gotta take it. Take it to the next level when they come around. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. Just keep your head up, yeah. Just keep your head up, yeah. Gotta keep your head up, yeah. Cause everything's gonna be alright.
Keep your head up. Keep your head up. Keep your head up.
Cause everything's gonna be alright.